All right, so now we're going to look at deriving a band ratio from an image. So there's lots of different band ratios. Different ones are available for different sensors depending on what bands are provided, what spectral ranges are sensed. What we're going to do is just simply look at the Ndvi, which is the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, which is probably the most used band ratio. And to do that, you need data that has a near-infrared band and then also a red band. It's also generally preferable that the data has been transformed into actual like surface reflectance or top of atmosphere reflectance as opposed to just like raw DN numbers. This data has not been corrected that way, but that's okay. It's just a demonstration. Okay, so here we have again that data over prog. So again, we're just showing this as a false collar. And as you can see, vegetated areas in this false collar composite show up generally as red, and that's because the red is showing near infrared, in which vegetation is generally really reflective. So green, healthy, photosynthetically active vegetation tends to reflect a lot of near infrared radiation in comparison to red radiation. So we can generate a ratio from that to just try to visualize the presence of vegetation health. All right, so there are tools available that allow you to just input bands and it will calculate the Ndvi or some other ratio for you. What we're going to do is just do it with the Raster Calculator. So to do that, I'm going to go to Raster and then Raster Calculator. And you can see here that it lists all the bands for the layer that I have loaded in. So 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's what this at number indicates as the band. It doesn't just show the ones that are like symbolized or used as channels. It's all the bands associated with the data. And this is just a stack of the 4 10-meter resolution bands. Okay, so to generate this, I'm just going to build the basic structure. So we're going to have a numerator, and then we're going to divide by the denominator. In the numerator, we want to take the near infrared and subtract the red from it. And then in the denominator, it's the same thing, except we're going to add them. So instead of bringing those in, I'm just going to copy this over. And I'm just going to swap out the sign here, or the operator. Another thing people sometimes do is add a small number to the denominator so you don't get a divide by 0 error if both the near infrared and the red are 0. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm just going to put like a 0.0001 just to add a small number to it so we don't get a divide by 0 error. All right, so subtract near infrared, or subtract the red from the near infrared, divide by the sum, and then add a small number there so we don't get our divide by 0 error. Okay, and then we're going to save this out. So again, I'm going to use my, I need to have cleaner folder structure, but that's all right. Let's see, what are we looking for? Q demos, Sentinel-2, derivatives, and then this will be prog ndvi.tiff. All right, so a note here says the expression is valid. That doesn't necessarily mean that you did it correctly. It just means that it's interpretable. So there's no like syntax error. Okay, let's hit OK there and see what this looks like. Okay, so now we have a new layer loaded in. This is a single band raster because we just have the one index. And it came in as like a grayscale image. You can see the values range from negative 0.4 to up to about 0.87. So the range for Ndvi is -1 to 1. 1 would mean healthy, photosynthetically active green vegetation, and then lower numbers indicate vegetation that's not healthy or not vegetated. So for example, if we zoom in here into the city, we can see that the river shows up pretty dark, and like the impervious surface and building tops, and like here's an airport runway, they show up dark, whereas these vegetated fields and like forests and whatnot show up pretty bright, so they have a high Ndvi. These dark fields would maybe be like bare soils, non-vegetated agricultural areas. Okay, so just before we move on, let's just change the symbology of this. So I'm going to go into the properties for the layer, and it came in as a single band gray, and we're going to swap that out for a single band pseudo color. And yeah, we can use this. This looks good. Just green stretch. Okay, so and now the darker greens would be your high NDVI areas, and the whites to lighter greens would be your non-vegetated areas or unhealthy vegetation. Okay, so again, there's tools for doing this, especially building things like Saga. Let's just do a quick search and see if anything comes up. NDVI. Nothing there. Let's look under Saga real quick. Saga. Maybe this would be under image analysis. There may be some band ratios in here. Here's a vegetation indexes and whatnot. So there are some tools for doing this, but you can also just do it with the Raster Calculator.